Welcome to Calculations Talk Show. I'm Gary Johnson. We have a special guest with us, Dave Wooley. He has multifaceted, talented brother. He's going to talk about some of the things he's done in the entertainment industry. Dave, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you, man. It's really an honor to be on your show. I was so excited. And congratulations on all your success.
Thank you, man. Look like it's a little early out there. Where you hanging these days?
I happen to be in Thailand. So it's 12 hours earlier. So it's about 6:15 or so here. So,
Yeah,
but
man.
for you, brother, hey, it don't matter. It don't matter.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Where you from and how you got to where you are. Give us a trip.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Harlem, New York. I grew up in Frederick Douglass Projects on 103rd and Columbus Avenue, building 850, apartment 1A on the first
All
floor.
right.
Uh, and at the early age of 6 years old, I got my first conga drum, which was given to me by a renowned African Nigerian drummer named of Alatunji. And he started giving me drum lessons. He had a famous album called Drums of Passion. And that got me started at 6 years old. And then by the time I got 9, I got a drum set and really made that drum set really, my vision of that was going to be the ticket to get me out of the hood, from about 12 years old, I did nothing but play drums and practice and take lessons. And then eventually became a studio musician doing sessions for, people like Cissy Houston and so many others that played drums for the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, Dance Set of Harlem. Of course, the great Norman Connors was the first one to take me out on the road with him, and that was with Phyllis and Michael Henderson. I was about 16 years old. And that's basically what got me into the whole entertainment industry. And here I am all these years later. I've been blessed to never have a full-time job. I've been able to be in the entertainment industry my entire life and be an entrepreneur. So I feel extremely blessed at this point in my life to look back and to have done nothing but entertainment.
Man, you sound like a grinder. I'm still processing being on the road with Norman Connors, Michael Henderson, Phyllis Hyman at 16.
At
Oh,
16, absolutely. In Harlem, New York is competitive anyway, so you got to be like, and everybody feels like they can play drums. So, I really, really worked at my craft, and I understood that I wasn't going, I wasn't 6'6", so knew I wasn't going to join the NBA. And I learned how to read music and, and really hone my craft. So that was an incredible experience. And I love Norman. He's, talked to me, just had a birthday recently. But that got me into the music part of business. Now, the business part of show business was a little earlier that's a little cute story where, prior to making any money on drums, I used to carry groceries at 9 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old on a corner store, A&P. You guys remember A&P?
A&P. Oh,
Super
yeah.
supermarket. So me and my boys, 9 years old, 10 years old, we would be out there carrying groceries and helping the old ladies, put them in their car or put it in the cab. And they would give us a 50-cent tip, a quarter tip. And that's how I got my spending money. But I saved each one of those 50 cents, quarters, because I saw a shopping cart in the store and it was $25. So I saved up all of those quarters and bought that shopping cart. So now I was the only kid on the corner with a shopping cart. So I had a competitive advantage over all of my competitors. So when the women came out, I was the 10 guys out on the corner. I was the only with a shopping cart. I noticed that those 50-cent tips now started to turn into $1 tip. And I was able to save that money, and I bought a second shopping cart, third shopping cart. So that summer I had 5 shopping carts. So I had 5 guys of my friends working for me with those shopping carts. So that taught me the difference from being an employer versus being an employee. And from that day, as a young child, I, vowed to always be, an employer. And I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've been self-employed all of these years throughout my entire life.
I love it. Nobody would outwork you. That's it. That's the mantra. You were like a big box store back then as a kid, man. You had it all. I love it. Had 5 people working for you, making it work.
And they had to
So,
split their earnings, at the end of the day, 50-50, because I own the shopping carts. So yeah. And business is really, it's really about entrepreneurship. So it's called show business. So that taught me the business, and then show was me practicing on those drums and really honing in my craft. And I merged the two of those, and here I am today.
so you talked about Norman Connors being an influence on the music side. Tell us a little bit more about the business side. What are some of your key takeaways and learnings? Some of the things that you've taken away that you could share to say, for example, to some people who want to get into the business, make sure you do this.
Make sure you really have a good lawyer and accountant, because what you don't know in entertainment business will hurt you. I've seen artists sign away all of their publishing for $5,000 upfront advance, and we're talking about something that could potentially worth millions and millions of dollars. I've seen artists file bankruptcy when it wasn't necessary for them to file bankruptcy. I've seen, musicians, just being grossly misused. And that's typically what happens in this industry is really, you really have to know the business part of it. There's a great book by Donald Passman, which I encourage everybody to read if you're thinking about getting into the industry. And that pretty much lays out the principles that you need to know in this business. And then also, it nowadays with the internet, YouTube, Google, you can teach yourself a lot. You really can. But most people don't understand. I do have a bachelor's in business administration. I do have an MBA in business administration. So I also have the formal training. And for the young folks that are out there looking to get into this, you can't discount formal in it education, and you really, really can't, and it will help you in terms of longevity.
All right, before I get back into the entertainment part, listening to you begs the question, what was your earliest or most vivid recollection of being or feeling different?
Well, I was always a different kid, but I think the earliest part is when I started playing drums at a young age and being teased. Because again, I said I lived on the first floor. So you can imagine, kids would just come up to the window and bang on the window. Yo, man, get off those drums. You give me a headache. Hey, I'm drunk, man. You messing up my high, that kind of a thing. So, I felt different, but sometimes that different gives you that different competitive advantage and separates you from others. So I encourage all folks that feel different. That's a good thing, because you don't want to be part of the status quo. Difference is what, makes a difference.
Okay. So now I want to fast forward a little bit, and if you have to, take me back if I jump too far. Tell me about some of the awards and recognition that you're getting now from like Image Awards and how you got there, because you're like a director and a producer, man. You big time.
Well, that's kind of was a natural progression in terms of my career. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of producing, writing, and co-directing the award-winning Dionne Warwick "Don't Make Me Over" documentary, which, by the way, premiered on New Year's Day on CNN. So we're really elated. We came in number one. Fast forward, we won several film festivals. There's too many for me to name at this point. But most recently, I was nominated by the NAACP Image Awards for Best Director in terms of documentary. So we'll be hearing about that in March. They'll be announcing that. And of course, it'll be televised on BET as well as CBS. So I'm really thrilled. But I already feel like I'm a winner. I think the film is already a winner, and it's really about Dionne Warwick. So I think she's able to smell her roses in her lifetime, and that's really was the principle behind making this film. So I'm really elated. I encourage everybody to go check it out. It's on like I said, it's on HBO Max. Dionne Warwick, "Don't Make Me Over."
All right. I
Well, let
also
me
saw
say
her.
some of the folks that
Yeah,
are in it,
yeah, go
because I
ahead.
think that's important.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We have Alicia Keys, we have Bill Clinton, we have Stevie Wonder, we have Elton John, we have Snoop Dogg, believe it or not. As a matter of fact, I think this is the only film where you have a President Clinton and a Snoop Dogg in the same film, and it works, So Gloria Estefan, Gladys Knight, Smokey Robinson, Quincy Jones. I mean, it really is a galaxy of stars. I did, the interviews, and as I said, I wrote the film as well. So, it's really a very entertaining. It really is something that I think will be inspirational to both men and women.
Well, she's had a tremendous career. Saw her get her award a couple weeks ago, Urban Honors. Yeah, so
That's
she's
right.
tremendous, tremendous.
And
Hey,
before that was the Kennedy Center honors.
oh my goodness, yes, that was great.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
great seeing her up there with that. Yeah.
Well,
So,
Dionne is a transformational figure, and by that, what I mean is that a real leader doesn't create followers. A real leader creates other real leaders, and that's what this woman has done. She has brought the best out of people that have been around her and the people that her admired her, and that's what makes Dionne Warwick, such an iconic and special woman. I mean, you're talking about a woman who has sold 100 million records worldwide. She has 6 Grammy awards. I mean, I can go through the accolades and accolades and accolades. I mean, but there's nobody like a Dionne Warwick. Dionne won the Grammy, the first Black person to win a Grammy in the pop category. Now we hear Beyonce winning pop, and all these other artists, pop artists, but somebody had to start one, and that one was Dionne Warwick, and that was in 1968. So just think about that time period. I mean, Martin Luther King was alive then.
yep.
So she was the one prior to Dionne, African Americans who were up for Grammys won in the R&B category. She opened that door and allowed all of these young folks to come through, and they stand on her shoulders. And the film talks about that. So it's really one of these things when you talk about transformational leaders. We need to know who they are in our community, and she is certainly at the top of that list.
Oh, no question. She was back then with Burt Bacharach, Hal David. She's worked with
That's
a
right.
number of producers and always, the We Are the World. I mean,
Oh
she
yeah.
just, I mean, my goodness, all the folks. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's royalty. She's
Yeah.
royalty.
Well, and you think about those hits, a lot of people watch the film and it's like, I didn't know Dionne did that. I thought, Luther Vandross did Anyone Who Had a
Yeah.
Heart, A House Is Not a Home,
Oh my goodness.
like,
Yeah. Yeah, she did it. Yeah. That's where he
you
got it
know,
from.
that's where he wanted to be basically the
Yeah.
male version of a Dionne Warwick. And he would say that, he in his lifetime, he would say that. So, once again, that's what this film is about, really empowering others. And I feel as a director, producer, and writer, if I can do it, anybody watching this interview, listen, it's your dream, follow it, pursue it. Don't let nothing ever stop you.
Good. That's what I want to come out of this when people watch this and they see you, man, and they're like, you know what? Man, I can do that too. Let me start grinding. Let me surround myself with good people. Let me be
Mhm.
smart, and let me follow up and do what I need to do. And I tell people all the time, failing is not the big deal. It's not getting up. You can fall, but you got to get back up and learn from your lessons. Hey,
Absolutely.
speaking of that,
Absolutely.
man,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I also want to say, that I didn't go to film school, so this is actually my very first film that I directed. And this film was done from an entrepreneurial perspective. You just heard the background of how I got into entrepreneurship as a little boy. But it was not financed by CNN or Warner Media or Netflix or Amazon or any of the big companies that you would think. It was financed independently. And then after I completed, then I brought it to the marketplace to see, who would be interested in the film. So, don't even let that stop you, meaning like, well, the Netflix won't return my calls with Amazon. Hey, if it's for you and God wants it to happen, there's nothing anyone could do to stop that. But you have to meet God halfway.
You know what? Here's the thing that I'm getting out of this. No one will outwork you. I said that earlier. You're just willing to do the work, man. You're
Yeah.
willing to do the work.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's great.
absolutely. Got to get in the trenches.
You know, we're talking about entertainment, but also, what is your connection to sports? You've had a connection with sports also. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, prior to doing films and things of that nature, I was uh, produced quite a few major sporting events. The one of the biggest fights that ever happened was Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks, and that was in 1988.
I was there. I
Once,
was there
oh yeah,
watching. I was at the Capitol Center in Maryland,
in DC.
Landover, Maryland. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
watching that. Woo,
yeah, and
pay-per-view.
so back then, it was closed circuit,
Yeah,
where you had to watch it on a giant screen, and at the Cap Center or the DC Armory
yep.
or Baltimore Arena, in Delaware Park, the Richmond Coliseum. So all of those locations, I own exclusively the television rights, the pay-per-view and closed circuit rights for the entire state of Virginia, Maryland, District of Columbia, and Delaware for many of those fights. So when you bought a ticket, it was you entered into a Dave Wooley production. So
My
yeah,
man.
you were at one of my events. You didn't even know that, did you?
No, no. I was at many of your events because I was at the Cap Center for a lot of Ray Leonard fights, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
I didn't do
yeah.
the Leonard fights. He was one of those guys. He had a guy by the name of Mike Trainer,
By trainer.
uh,
Yeah, he had trainer.
who did that Maryland area, but the Tyson and thereafter, and then James Brown. We did his pay-per-view, teamed up with my great late friend Butch Lewis. So I've been in that space for a long time. The Rolling Stones, I did their tour in terms of closed circuit pay-per-view. So in terms of putting butts in the seats, that's what I've been known for. Putting butts in the seats. I like to say put cracks in the seats.
Yeah, man. So since we're talking about how diversified you are, children's books, you didn't you have a hand in
Yeah.
children's book?
Yeah, yeah, I was fortunate. Both Dionne and Warwick and myself, we did two children's books. One was this is actually my second nomination for an Image Award, but the first nomination came with a book called "Say a Little Prayer," which really is about Dionne Warwick's life, basically as a little girl. Doing amateur night at the Apollo, really, really nice book. That was nominated for an Image Award. The second book was a children's book, was entitled Little Man. That was about me. That story I told you about being a drummer and carrying groceries and things like Dionne said, hey man, that's a great story. Make that into a children. Let's work on it together. And we worked on it together. We put that out. That was very successful. And then her autobiography, which was called My Life as I See It, Dionne Warwick, which was published by Simon and Schuster. That came out, that became a bestseller. So collectively we have three books. Just going back to the sports world, one of the events I really enjoyed producing, which was my brainchild, was an event we called Clash of the Legends. And what I was able to do was bring out the great Dr. J, Julius
Oh
Erving,
yes, yes,
to
with
come. You
Kareem.
remember that?
Yes.
That was me.
Oh man, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So it
Tell
was
tell the
Dr.
folks
J
about that.
versus.
Tell the folks about that because they know who these iconic players are, but tell them how you had it
Yeah,
structured.
well, from doing the boxing, I said, okay, it's nice doing events that somebody else's brainchild and licensing it from somebody else, but I want to create my own event. I want to own all the rights for the entire world for it. So I came up with this idea of Julius Erving, Dr. J versus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The sky hook versus a slam dunk, and make that a pay-per-view event, and that's exactly what I was able to do, and that was extremely successful. The live gate was in Atlantic City at Trump Taj Mahal, and then it showed on Showtime as well. But I mean, when I look back on some of these events, you're talking about, it's kind of like Michael Jordan versus Kobe,
Yeah.
a one-on-one. I mean, it was such a big event that now I look back on it and I really feel extremely blessed because it's truly iconic.
Man, how do you have time? And I'm asking this question because I've done what I'm about to reference for you.
Mhm.
I've done it at two colleges. How do you have time to be an adjunct professor, man?
Well, education. I started off talking about that.
Yeah,
That's my ministry. When I step in a classroom or now if I teach the class online, that's my ministry. Giving back because you can't take this with you. You have to pass it on to
right.
the next generation. So I make the time. I've been an adjunct professor, business professor at Wilmington University for 25 years now. Is also the where I graduated and got both my degrees, my bachelor's and my MBA. So it's important. Whenever I find young, boys, girls, and they want to know, what business is about, I love sitting them down and telling them, because uh, it's what's I said, without the knowledge, you're not going to be able to be successful. You really not.
Man, this
I
is
know.
this is a perfect blend of education, tenacity, hard work. Is there any other industry that you haven't like been in and just slayed?
Well, my greatest accomplishment had nothing to do with entertainment, sports, or anything. My greatest accomplishment, I feel, is I was a single father. I was awarded custodial custody of both my daughters. They were 2 and 3 years old, Beta and Davina Wooley. So, I raised them without a nanny, without the girlfriend, without a wife, which I learned how to cornrows, zigzag parts, press and curl,
My
piano
man,
lessons, swim lessons, Girl Scouts, so if you really want to know what's hard to do, try raising children, so kudos to all of the moms watching this and all of the dads, and a special kudos to the single dads because we don't get enough recognition for the sacrifices we made. So for 20 years, I got big in the daddy business. And I traded, my briefcase for a diaper bag and took them from from Play-Doh to pantyhose. And now they're 27 and 26 years old. The 27-year-old Vita is a practicing attorney in Las Vegas. She has her MBA in finance and graduated from Drexel. So the 26-year-old is Davina Wooley. She graduated from Georgia Tech, and she's a computer engineer. So, when you talk about success, really, success is not, anything material. Success is family. Success is about giving back. And those are my successes. Some of these other stuff, it's nice to talk about, but children are really the destiny of your legacy.
man, I knew there was a connection between us. I quit my job when my boys were 4 and 7 and became a stay-at-home dad.
What?
One of the best experiences, man. I'm telling you, the ride to school, just listening to the conversations in the back seat, the field trips, the moms giving me the side eye. What's he doing here?
Right, right.
But oh, you had girls and I had boys. And I'm like,
Hey,
that was the best thing. And it opened me up because if I kept my job, I wouldn't have been an entrepreneur doing stuff like this, writing
right,
books, starting
right,
a website.
right.
It just gave me a lot of time. And when I opened up my office, I picked my kids up from school. I had workstations in my office, bring them right back to the office, do your homework until daddy comes home, till it's time for us to leave. And we all leave together.
Right.
Man. But you the man. You the man with the cornrows in the hair. Oh no. Oh no, you the man. Woo!
No,
I didn't have
no,
to do
listen,
that.
I didn't have any boys, but it equally kudos to you. I mean, really, isn't that a very humbling experience? And once you do that, when you take that on, you can take up making a movie is piece of cake. You know what I mean? A piece of cake. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so do the single parents that are watching this, and even parents that are together. I mean, it really is. like I said, children are the destiny of our legacy.
Yep.
So that's the cornerstone of
Man,
what I feel success is.
one of the most rewarding things happened to me about 3 weeks ago. Both of my boys have girls, and my youngest son called me, and he was having a little trouble or something. And I said, "How you working out?" He said something to me I'll never forget. He said, "Dad, one of the things I learned from you is that you always took us everywhere with you, and I learned patience." He says, "So that's how I'm getting through this. He's a musician. He said, I'm taking her with me to the studio. She's going to be my roadie. I can keep eyes on her. She'll be filming us, and I'm patient." So I'm like, wow. So they did listen. They did get something out of that, you know?
What a beautiful story. So you had two boys and one of the boys blessed you with a girl. I had two girls, and my daughter recently blessed me with a boy. So
That's how it
my
works, man.
first,
Those are the blessings, man.
oh, so I have a grandson. His name is King, King, believe it. And he's just about 2 years old. And we took him on a red carpet for the Urban One
Okay.
honors. We went, the girls, my daughters and I, we went to Urban One, and King walked the red carpet with his 2-year-old self, giving people high fives. So I get the boy that way.
Oh man, my granddaughter called me just last Saturday. She said, "You know who I saw?" I said, "Who?" She said, "Justin Timberlake. He was at the same studio with Daddy." So now she's like all big, man. So those are memories, man, that like you said, the material things, no comparison. No
None,
comparison.
none, none at all. No.
No.
So, and they'll be at the NAACP Image Award. I think that airs March 16th. Am I
Oh,
correct?
I'm gonna double check and we're gonna put that in our print
Mhm.
feature to make sure, man. We're gonna have some eyeballs on you. I'm like,
Yeah, and
yes, look.
and one of the great things about this film is both my daughters were associate producers, so they were my left and right hand, and helping me finish this film.
Love it.
So to work with your children is really a blessing too, because I get to see that they were listening when they were little.
Man, we got a lot in common because after this, I do a podcast, and my son is one of the co-hosts on the podcast that I'm doing. So, so we got it going on, man. We got it going on.
I love this. I love
Oh
this.
man, I love it. Wait till I tell
Black
Angela and
love.
Kevin, man. Hey,
Yeah.
in the time we have left, what do you want people to know about you, what you do, life lessons? Because they picked up some life lessons, just you and I, swapping stories.
Well, you always have to remember when you wanted what you currently have. Remember when you wanted what you currently have. A lot of times people always looking for the next thing, the next thing. But, they don't thank God, for what they currently have. And, when they wanted that car, well, guess what? You have it now. God blessed you, you cannot be afraid to believe in the impossible. You really cannot be afraid to believe in the impossible, because it's only impossible until someone does it. Make sure that someone is you.
You. Oh man. Man, that's a great way to close out. It's a great way to close out. I love it. I'm gonna be in touch. You'll get the word from Angelo and the rest of the crew. We're gonna put this up on all of our social media platforms. And best of effort. I don't say luck, man. Effort. Best of effort with that NAACP award, that nomination. Like you say, you're already a winner to be nominated, man. And so if it's not this time, it'll be the next one. Because you got other projects going on. I know you're a grinder, man. So wow. I appreciate you being on, brother. And this has been great. Absolutely great. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll have some stuff to follow. Dave, and hey, man, thank you so much for being on the show.
I got nothing but love for you. Greetings from Thailand.
Yes.
Look, from Harlem to Thailand. But I go back next week, so.
All right.
But I
Hang
had.
on.